calls me googly eyes.
And you know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
All right, here we go. What do you say, folks, friends and neighbors? It's the morning after Wednesday, April 27, the morning after Super Tuesday 4 or the Acela primary, whichever you prefer. And we're looking at you on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV. Donald Trump, as expected, swept all 5 states yesterday in the Republican primary by huge margins, winning 50, 30, 40%, just crushing Ted Cruz and John Kasich, no doubt about it. It looks like Donald Trump, he called himself the presumptive nominee, and then he went on for about an hour attacking Hillary Clinton, calling her crooked Hillary, and saying in a most sexist remark that she wouldn't even get 5% of the vote if she were not a woman. He will live to rue that day and rue that regret. Meanwhile, in effect, Ted Cruz and John Kasich, it's impossible for them to win the nomination. The only way they could win it is through an open convention, probably if it goes beyond the first ballot. Ted Cruz has said that he is going to focus on Indiana. That's next Tuesday. If he doesn't win Indiana, he is out of the race entirely. On the Democratic side, of course, Hillary Clinton winning 4 out of 5. Bernie Sanders did win Rhode Island. She won the other 4, and that makes it almost mathematically impossible for Bernie Sanders to win the nomination. Alas, alas. Bernie put out a statement congratulating Secretary Clinton and saying that he will continue through the primaries, focusing on the issues all the way through to the big primary in California on June 7th. So there you go. It looks like it's going to be Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I can't wait to the first debate.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get fire adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Donald Trump sweeps all 5 states with crushing margins, and Hillary Clinton picks up 4 out of 5, Bernie winning Rhode Island. Is it going to be Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton? Hey, hello, everybody. Sure looks that way. It is Wednesday, April 27. What do you say? The Bill Press Show coming to you live right here from Washington, D.C., the morning after Super Tuesday 4, or the so-called Acela primary, which a lot of people had a hard time pronouncing yesterday. And it went late into the night until 2 a.m. on CNN for me to sort it all out and figure out what it means. And we've got 3 more hours, assuming that I last that long.
You got to make it.
To sort it out this morning.
Awfully optimistic
as
today.
well. Okay. So good to see you today. And it really was last night. It seems like Super Tuesday, and then maybe the next one, and then the next one. Last week with New York. We keep saying, this is the one that's going to decide it. This is the one that's going to turn the page. Last night might have finally done it. And that's one of the things we'll be talking about today, because it really does look like, certainly, Ted Cruz and John Kasich eliminated from the possibility of winning the nomination before Cleveland, and almost mathematically impossible for Bernie Sanders to win the nomination before Philadelphia. Lots to talk about today. That's why it's good to see you. Remember, give us a call. We want to just devote our time to this morning. 866-55-PRESS. There's so many ramifications of this. 866-55-PRESS, our toll-free number. Send us your comments on Twitter. Where do we go from here? What's it going to look like? On Twitter, at BP Show.
You got it.
And on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Here with the help of friends. It does take a village, and the villagers, Peter Ogburn. I didn't say village idiots. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Just call us the village people.
The village people.
Yeah, that'll
that's
work.
better. That's better. Ray Rogers, one of them too, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding on the job as our videographer as well. I got to tell you, it was a long night.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't for me. I wasn't on CNN all night like you were.
And they didn't call Connecticut until just about 11 o'clock last night. Look, that was very close.
That was the last one.
The closest, I think, of all the primaries.
Yeah.
And we'll get into give you the margins on both sides in the primaries as we open up here. But Donald Trump called himself the presumptive nominee, and even though technically he's not until he gets 1,237 delegates, it's really hard to dispute that, given that last night he got about, we'll give you the exact numbers, but about 80 or 90 delegates. Ted Cruz got 5, and John Kasich got 5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ted Cruz came in like third in 4 out of 5 states.
Ted Cruz came in third in 4 out of 5 states. He didn't win a single county last night. Not one. He didn't win a single county. So,
but if you looked at Pennsylvania, for example, Donald Trump won every county.
Yep.
If you looked at Maryland, Donald Trump won every county. If you looked at Delaware, I know it's a small state. It's my home state. There are only 3 counties, but Donald Trump won all 3.
Yeah.
And, northern Delaware is a little more moderate, if you will, among Republicans than southern Delaware, or slower Delaware, as we call it. But he won all 3. So it was a wipeout for Donald.
Total. And you look at the numbers, right? He won by 30 points in just about every state. He hit nearly 60% in almost every state, and he went over 60% in some states.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a clock cleaning.
And before they were always saying, well, the problem with Donald Trump, he's a plurality candidate, not a majority candidate. Well, that was when there were 17 people in the race, right? Exactly. Right. And what do we call yesterday? Well, that did present a problem for some broadcasters. As we pointed out yesterday, it's so sort of elitist for people to call this, who live in the Wash-Boston corridor, to call this the Acela primary, because that's the high-speed, expensive train that connects Washington and Boston and New York.
What's it called again?
Well, we know what it's called. It's called the Acela. Some broadcasters couldn't quite get it straight. Here's a little montage.
They're called the Acela primaries. But what does that mean?
Is it a Acela train, Melissa? Yes. Acela train. What some are calling the Acela primary.
The Acela primaries.
What some are calling the Acela primary. Okay, anyway.
Acela, Amtrak primary. It's been called a lot of different things today.
So named because Amtrak's famous Acela train. Amtrak's famous Acela train.
The Acela, the primaries. The Acela primaries.
Amtrak's famous Acela train. It's called the Ace-LA primary.
Nailed it. Nailed it. The Ace-LA? The Acelia.
Yeah, Acelia.
I think that's my favorite, the Acelia.
Acela.
The Acela. The famous.
The famous
Acela
primary.
Very famous. Very famous Acela primary.
Yeah. We may not know much, but at least we know how to pronounce Acela, and we know what it is. Yeah. David Jackson joining us from USA Today. John Allen from Sidewire. Reporters from Politico and National Journal. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple other stories making news. Countries are looking for more and more ways to fight climate change, and Denmark may have a new idea. They are eyeing a tax on red meat to try and fight climate change. Now, what they've done is they had a group take a look at different ways that they could cut back on climate change, and they reported back to the government that this is one way to do it. They say that, there's a lot of water that goes involved in raising cattle. There's a lot of methane gas that's very harmful, which we know about. And they say that we should cut back on red meat, which means less cow production, and that would help. It's one idea. They haven't put this into law yet, but it's interesting. It's very interesting.
Guess which country would never pass that legislation?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. We would never in a million years. Bill, I see you have your Chobani yogurt over there.
I do.
You're going to love this story because yesterday in New York, where the headquarters of Chobani are located, their CEO, Hamdi Ulakaya, the guy who founded, he's a Turkish immigrant, he told 2,000 full-time employees of Chobani that they are now owners in the company. He handed them an ownership stake that could make some of them millionaires overnight.
Right.
Some of these full-time employees, again, 2,000 of them. He says that he wants to pass on some of what he's earned and give them some sort of ownership in the company so that they will treat it like their own. It's a great model.
Great story.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I really like that.
And this is what more people ought to do. This addresses directly the income inequality argument.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Will the Chobani caucus be having a formal reception tonight?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Something to celebrate.
I would hope so.
Ask him about that.
This is what Jamie Dimon ought to do at Citibank, right?
Yeah, right. And we are still mourning loss of performer Prince, but we found out that his only full sibling, her name is Tika Nelson, said that he had no will. He had a lot of money and no will. So we're not really sure how this is all going to play out, but I guarantee you it's not going to be pretty. He made hundreds of millions of dollars for records and concerts and all this stuff, not to mention all of the albums he still owns and
still
his
money coming
property
in.
and money coming in. I mean, he's still making a ton of money off of his albums. So that's not good. We'll have to keep you posted on how that moves forward. But, yeah. Got to have a will in place.
Boy, that's a real mess.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, so where do we start? Let's start on the Republican side because, as I said, Donald Trump opening up last night with Chris Christie and Mrs. Christie standing in back of him and declaring that he was he considered himself now the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party. Hey, folks, let's remember a year ago, right? Not even July 2015, we were laughing ourselves silly, rolling on the floor, laughing at Donald Trump announcing he was actually going to run for president after we'd said at first he would never even do it. It was just a threat. And he comes down the escalator and opens up for president by saying he's going to build a wall, make Mexico pay for it, and deport 12 million people who are living here in the shadows. And we laughed at him for a year, and then about 2 weeks ago, we all said, well, now Ted Cruz has figured out the delegate game, and so Donald Trump's ship has sailed. It's all over for Donald Trump. We wondered when it would end. Well, it has ended. And then he turns around and wins New York by a huge margin, and yesterday, 5 states. And, I mean, I kept pinching myself on CNN last night, all night, thinking, here we are. We're sitting around here on national television talking about Donald Trump as the most likely nominee of the Republican Party. So, Peter, he won 5 states, and he won them, just run down if you can, by big margins.
Big numbers. Connecticut, he won 57%. Kasich came in second at 28%. Ted Cruz.
So 30 points.
30 points there. Ted Cruz, by the way, way behind at 11% in Connecticut. Delaware, Donald Trump won by 40 points. He pulled in 60.8%. Kasich with 20.4%. Ted Cruz at 15%. Maryland, Donald Trump 54%. John Kasich 23%. Another big win. Ted Cruz again, 18% there, so in third place. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump 56. Ted Cruz came in second with 21, but John Kasich right behind him at 19.
30
Still
points.
A 35-point blowout. And in Rhode Island, Donald Trump 63.6% with Kasich at 24.
Yeah. Yeah. And remember,
brutality.
He did all of this without spending any money.
So,
right?
by the way, if you're wondering,
all free media.
All free media. That puts Donald Trump at 988 delegates out of the 1,237 that he needs. Ted Cruz is at 568, and John Kasich still has less than Marco Rubio with 152.
Right. So Donald Trump now over 400 delegates ahead of Ted Cruz. And last night, Donald Trump again, declaring victory and then taking questions on a whole wide range of issues. He blathered on for 45 minutes or more, and he turned it right away into an attack on Hillary, basically saying women don't even like her.
The only thing she's got going is the woman's card, and the beautiful thing is women don't like her.
Based on what? God. And then He said the most sexist thing I think I've ever heard any candidate say about Hillary Clinton. And this is the time where Mary Pat Christie, Chris Christie's wife, of course, standing in back of Donald Trump, rolls her eyes in disgust when he says this. Hillary, of course, firing back. Not right afterwards. She had made this statement earlier, but we have the two of them back to back.
Frankly, if Hillary Clinton were a man, I don't think she'd get 5% of the vote.
If fighting for women's health care and paid family leave and equal pay is playing the woman card, then deal me in.
We've heard that line before, and I'm sure you'll hear it many, many times here. But the idea to saying the only thing that Hillary's got going for her, she wouldn't even get 5% of the vote if she weren't a woman. It's just disgusting. Not true, of course, and totally sexist comment. I mean, you cannot alienate all African Americans, all Latinos, all women and expect to win the presidency of the United States.
I told you this story.
Hello?
We're all saying there's just no way we can, in any way, could we vote for Donald Trump. There's just no way. Automatically vote Republican.
So it does look like, again, he's going to be the nominee of the Republican Party. I don't know how anybody can stop him. Certainly, Ted Cruz and John Kasich cannot stop him before the convention. And if he gets close enough, he could get the 1237 before the convention. If he gets close enough, if he gets within 100, if he gets within 50, there is certainly no way they're going to stop him. So one of the members of our panel last night, Amanda, I don't know her last
name.
Carpenter, thank you. Okay, she was saying, she's a Ted Cruz supporter, and she was saying, I don't know what we're going to do. We conservatives in the party, I don't know what we're going to do with Donald Trump as a nominee. And I said, I volunteered. I said, I can tell you what you ought to do. I can tell you what establishment Republicans ought to do, right? You ought to focus on Senate races and House races and governor's races and state legislative races because you ain't going to win the White House. Kiss it goodbye. Yeah. Exactly. 866-55-PRESS. Donald Trump looks like the Republican nominee. What's it mean? And here's the question. Is he going to be easy to beat? Or is he going to be tough? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it. And then we'll get to Bernie and Hillary when we come back.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
On opening body bags after Typhoon Haiyan. I can only imagine it like unearthing a scab. Zipper breaks open one by one. Mothers trying to dig through themselves an umbilical cord to lend life to a limp ghost. There is not enough relief here to hide the scent of what this child used to be. The coconut trees are not high enough to see over the inside out that was made here. Bags do not have the honor of being called burial plots. Churches ain't supposed to be mausoleums. Tacloban was morphed into ground zero. And I watch this while it snows in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where it's easier to live as a rodent than it is to be a colored person. This place drowns my people in a different way. I inhabit both places like Jigsaw corpse trying to find itself whole. These brown boys in Tacloban aren't my cousins, but I want to carry them to safety. These brown girls in Tacloban aren't my daughters, but I want to tell them they're still growing after this choking, but I'm still an ocean away, a language farther from root, a skin tone lighter than the sand, born there, raised here, home nowhere. To watch this storm is a sorry excuse for mourning. It is to need the sun desperately. It is to realize that your body is in one country while your grief is in another. To look at your house, walk to a river, and come back to no house is to be Filipino. To look at your motherland hurting from a TV screen is to be Filipino American. To watch my islands through the blue eyes of Anderson Cooper is the most American I have ever felt, but I still cry for them And I still pray for them because God tried to make them Atlantis before they were ready to be a myth just yet, because rebuilding is the Filipinos' most intrinsic muscle memory but most painful trauma, because relief is just a word whose Tagalog translation I don't even know, because this poem is all I can give for my country bleeding in salt water. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord keeps trying to drown us. Hallowed be thy bodies. Thy kingdom come down in waves and winds on earth as it is destroyed. Take us this day our daily rations, and forgive those who have tried to kill us as we forgive those who have tried to kill us. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us whose skin has always meant sin now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Turns from the big 5-state primary yesterday, Peter.
On whether or not Trump could win, Phil weighs in on Twitter at BP Show. You can find us at BP Show. He says, Trump knows there's a sucker born every minute, but I'm confident that there aren't enough suckers to elect him president of the United States.
I hope he's right.
Here's hoping.
I hope he's right. I'm worried that Democrats could. It's just unthinkable that Donald Trump could be president of the United States. Unthinkable. I was walking over here today trying to picture Donald Trump giving an inaugural address from the front steps of the Capitol.
Can you imagine?
Or even the first debate with Hillary Clinton. I can't imagine, right?
Yeah.
But I don't want Democrats to make the same mistake Republicans did and not take him seriously, because he is a threat. And on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton, commanding performance in 4 states. Bernie Sanders winning Rhode Island. After it, Bernie Sanders put out a statement of his own saying he congratulated Secretary Clinton on her victory. He says he's proud that we were able to win a resounding victory in Rhode Island, but he is going to carry on because he says the people in every state in this country should have the right to determine who they want as president and what the agenda of the Democratic Party should be. That's why we are in this race until the last vote is cast. And he said this campaign is going to go all the way to the Democratic Convention in Philadelphia, focusing on the issues. Bernie Sanders is basically saying, I'm going to focus now on shaping the agenda of the campaign and shaping the future of the Democratic Party. Basically saying, I know the chances of my becoming president are slim, but it's sort of like, as I said last night a couple of times, with Bernie, there's the candidate and there's the cause.
Yeah.
The candidate may be sidelined for a while here, but the cause lives on. So the question now is, how can Bernie pull that off? 866-55-PRESS.
This
on the other side,
is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You demand it.
Enough.
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 The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Next.
Here we are now at 34 minutes after the hour, reading the tea leaves of yesterday's big blowout by Donald Trump in the so-called Acela primary. That's how you pronounce it. And Hillary Clinton winning 4 out of 5, both of them in effect. I mean, I think last night was a transformative night. It really set the direction, I think, that we're going to see in the general election. a contest between someone, even if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter like I am, you have to admit, someone who is totally qualified to be president of the United States and to step in and know what she is doing from day one, and someone who is the least qualified candidate for president probably in the history of this country and who would be a total disaster, Donald Trump. What a choice. All right, you know the number, 866-55-PRESS.
Yeah, we are on Twitter.
Comments.
We are on Twitter, by the way, at BP Show. At BP Show, Barbara says, aren't we lucky? We get our very own Berlusconi, skeezy, sexist, stupid oligarch. Disgusting. And another tweeter.
I like that.
Yeah, right? Another tweeter just said, I just heard your show mention there are not enough suckers to elect Trump. Well, lest we forget, George W. Bush was elected twice.
You know what? George W. Bush looks like a statesman alongside of Donald Trump.
He really does.
I mean, if you had a debate, I mean, that they had to work on him, right?
Sure, yeah.
They had to cram the stuff, right? But he was capable of applying himself, learning the issues, and holding his own in a debate, which I must say he did.
He did. He did
against
do.
John Kerry,
100%.
right? Yeah,
100%.
And he did against Al Gore. Now, he didn't win the election against Al Gore. He lost that election. But I mean, Trump. I mean, if you listen to him, you know, when he like Kayleigh McEnany or whatever, who is you must say loyal. I admire her loyalty to Donald Trump. But she was saying last night, well, he talks about the issues. Tonight he talked about Benghazi. He talked about China. He talked about ISIS. But he didn't say. He just says. He says our biggest problem are nukes, and so we're going to have China take care of North Korea.
There you go. Diplomacy.
Yeah, that's not an answer, right? You know,
I'm really, really, truly anxious to see him in a debate with Hillary Clinton because we've seen him and how he acts in debates, where he goes from attacking people for the way that they look to the size of his manhood to any number of crazy things he said in the debates. But when it's just one-on-one, who knows what could happen? Really, I have no idea.
Right. But again, so that's Trump. And on the Democratic side, I must say, I was really proud of Bernie last night. I thought he really stepped up to the plate, stepped up, seized the moment to say, we're going to go forward with this campaign on the principle that every Democrat, every voter in every state should have a right to have their voice heard on the issues of the day. He said this earlier in the day.
I'm going to give every person in this country the right to decide who is going to be president of the United States, what the agenda is of the Democratic Party.
Yeah. And he said, this is what this and it was in West Virginia later in the day, again, before the results are known. He said, you know, this is what this campaign is all about.
This campaign is not just about electing a president. It is about transforming our nation.
So that's pretty powerful stuff. That is really powerful stuff. And again, we discussed this on CNN last night, and I made the point. I think you have to realize, first of all, Bernie is absolutely right. Why should the voters of New Jersey, for example, why should the voters of Indiana, why should the voters of Guam or California that haven't had a chance to vote yet not have a chance to express their preference? Because the primary, and this is what Bernie is all about too, and what having these primaries is all about, that you got Bernie's goal was not just to win the presidency, although he definitely wants to win still, but it's also to shape the agenda, to make sure, and that's one of the first things that he and I talked about when we first talked about when his running for president, is to make sure the progressive issues, income inequality, raising the minimum wage, jobs, Medicare for all, go down the list, that those are the centerpiece of the primary election of 2016 and of the general election of 2016. And that means shaping the party platform. The other goal, in addition to those first two, is shaking up and reforming the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Now, the more delegates he has, the more likely he is to achieve those two goals, right? And to build what he calls the political revolution, which he certainly has sure as hell started. But in order to continue that and to bring it about, he's got to stay in there till the end. And one of the things I kept thinking about last night, all right, my first, showing my age, my first political convention was 1976 with Jerry Brown. And Jerry Brown, Jimmy Carter had already won all the delegates he needed. Everybody knew he was going to be the nominee. But Jerry Brown did not drop out. He went to the all the way to the convention. Now, Bernie Sanders has 1,401 delegates. Do you know how many Jerry Brown had?
How many?
301. 301. So Bernie's got, 4 times as much a right as Jerry Brown did in 76. He's got every right to continue this and let everybody vote, let everybody have their say. As I said last night, those Hillary people who still think that Bernie ought to drop out, chill, because it ain't going to happen. And let everybody decide. That's an important vote. Even if they know Hillary's going to be the nominee, they can express their vote about where they want the Democratic Party to go and what they want the platform to say.
And on that note, one of the things that Bernie has shown is that we're a more progressive country than I think we thought we were.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, there used to be a time that you could never in a million years say, well, look at this country over here. They're doing things better than we're doing here. Right? They have free college. They have universal health care. They have high-speed transit. They have these things, and they have lapped us on these issues. And to say that politically before this election, I think would have gotten you in a lot of hot water.
Yeah.
I don't think you could say it. And Bernie has said it, and the message has resonated. The people want that.
Now, one of the biggest disappointments in my life was going to Ithaca, New York last week.
Mm-hmm.
And not meeting Helen.
You didn't meet Helen?
No.
Oh, Helen.
I didn't. I made that entire trip just to meet Helen, and she stood me up. But she's on the phone this morning here. She's calling in this morning. Hello, Helen. Where the hell were you?
I'm so sorry. I had a time conflict. You were only there for 2 hours. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
But I met you before. You had something with
okay.
Stephanie Miller.
Right.
It was like, I can't even
Yeah, I remember
remember
that. That was at the Hangar Theater with Stephanie Miller and Randy Rhoads, too.
Yeah,
I think,
it was
right?
called Stop the Press. It's Miller Time.
Oh, yeah, I remember
was
that.
it. Oh, right, exactly. Okay.
That was clever.
So what do you think, Helen?
Well, what I think that Mr. Trump has now, he's hired new managers and advisors, and they're like cracking the whip on him, like, look, you have to change your demeanor here. Both change the substance of what you're saying and the way you say it. And he's been acting much more professional, whatever.
Well, yeah, until last night. He was back to the old, blustery, ugly Trump last night, I thought.
Well, you can't really, people don't change, I don't think, But he said something, I'm a Bernie supporter, and he said that he doesn't think that the Democratic Party has treated Bernie Sanders properly.
Oh, right. By the way, I think that's correct. But he also then said that Bernie should run as an independent. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
You know what? His advantage, yeah.
Yeah, you know why he wants Bernie to run as an independent? Because he would take votes from Hillary and then that would help Donald Trump get elected. Yeah, so that's not going to happen. But all right. Hey, Helen, we're already talking about another visit to Ithaca this summer. At a winery up there in Ithaca. So stay tuned and keep in touch with WNYY because next time, Helen, no excuse. If you're not there, I'll hunt you down. David Jackson from USA Today standing by. We got his take on what happened yesterday when we come back.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
At Geico.
For my 6th birthday,
My grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. But to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by zero. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors. Shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands. Heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes before the top of the hour. Donald Trump heading to Washington today, about noon, I think it is, down at the Mayflower Hotel. He is going to be giving a major speech on foreign policy. Watch out. David Jackson stays in town for that speech. David Jackson, who's, we know him covering the White House at USA Today, but he's been in Trump land here for the last couple of months. And joining us on our newsline. David, what's this speech all about?
Well, it's his effort to become presidential, I think. You know, several weeks ago they promised a series of policy speeches, and this is the first one. But it also comes at a time when they're talking about Trump's going to make the turn. He's going to be more civil. He's going to be more presidential. Change his persona a little bit, and this is, I think, is an example of that.
And we were told last night on CNN that this is going to be a teleprompter speech. Only the second time at APEC you used a teleprompter, and apparently today as well, huh?
Exactly. In fact, it was funny you mentioned that, Bill, because during his campaigning recently, he made jokes about teleprompter and Obama using a teleprompter, which I thought was odd because he's going to be using one today, but. It only makes sense because when you're talking about foreign policy, you know, there's a lot of world capitals going to be tuned into this speech. So I would think he'd want to actually be careful about what he says this time, and I suspect he will be.
Well, when it comes to like names of capitals and names of foreign leaders and those kinds of things, I mean, they don't necessarily just roll off his tongue, right?
No, and I think he does know what the nuclear triad is by now, but there's probably a few other things. It's very tough stuff. I mean, he's basically learning on the run, if you will. So one of the things he'll be looking for is a proverbial gaffe, and whether he mispronounces the name or Stu. But
Right.
I mean, we'll find out soon enough.
Now, I do have to ask you: are you at the Waffle House?
I am, in fact, at the Waffle House. Can you hear it in the background?
I do.
The Waffle Shop.
Yeah.
The Waffle Shop. Okay, I just heard that in the background. I
Sorry,
figured.
I should have prepped you guys for that, man. I was running a little bit late, so I decided to hang out here.
This one did. That's all right. That's fine. It just
love it, man.
makes me hungry.
I wish we could do a show from the Waffle Shop.
We
wouldn't that be
could.
great?
Can we?
On site.
We could. Yeah.
Hey, Morning Joe does those shows from all these restaurants across the country. Why can't you guys?
David, see if you can arrange this. Say something on the way.
Yeah, let them know.
They must know you by now.
Oh, they
Every
definitely
time.
know me. They're all giving me the eye right now.
Right, okay. Now, so Trump called himself the presumptive nominee last night.
Right.
Is he?
God, she's sure in a good position, Bill. I really think he's going to be like 400 delegates ahead by the time everything's added up from last night.
Oh, he is already, yeah.
I think so. At 350 to 400, and that depends on what these 54 delegates from Pennsylvania do. So I think it's going to be hard to take the nomination away from him. Now, Cruz is making a last stand in Indiana, but recent polls show Trump's up in that state as well.
Yes.
So, I think if he wins Indiana next week, it's going to be awfully hard for Cruz to justify a nomination. And Kasich is so far back; it's getting increasingly hard to see. So,
we were talking.
While he's not really the presumptive nominee, I think he's still going to need 330 delegates. He's in a real good position, I think.
Technically, according to the rules, he is not the nominee until you have the 1237, right?
Right.
You mentioned Ted Cruz. I'm glad you did, because the way Ted Cruz set this up with this kind of ill-fated pact with John Kasich is, okay, I'm going to take Indiana, and I'm going to stop Donald Trump in Indiana. That's next Tuesday. If Ted Cruz doesn't win Indiana, he basically has it's hard to make an argument for moving forward, isn't it?
I think it's going to be very hard, although I'm sure he plans to go all the way to the convention. He'll have more than 500 delegates. But, it's increasingly hard to see. Cruz is in an interesting spot because I think he's already thinking about 2020, so he's got to be very careful about how he plays this. But, yeah, I mean, it's a cliche, but I think Indiana's a must-win for him. It's hard for me to see how he can continue on if he can't. Given the resources he's already put into Indiana and given the emphasis he's put on that race, it's hard to see how he can continue if he loses it.
All right, so let's say it is Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, right? Can you believe, first of all, we've been having this conversation, but is that sort of like an automatic one-sided blowout for Hillary Clinton?
Well, I mean, the polls would indicate that, but you never know. Trump's such a unique force in American politics, and as we mentioned, he's trying to change his persona. So, I mean, he sees the same numbers we do, so he's obviously going to be trying to work on his reputation, particularly among women voters. But, I think he definitely starts out the favorite, but it's really hard to assess, Bill, because I've never seen anything like the Trump phenomenon. And he's actually growing his numbers. I mean, look at the numbers he rolled up last night.
Yeah.
Not true they were Northeast states, but he got over 50%, and there was some of us who questioned whether he'd be able to do that in any primary, and last night he did it pretty much across the board. So, I mean, I would hate to say never with this guy, especially until we see how things. Let's see how things pan out in August and September when it's just the two of them.
And everything you said last night, I think the statement that if Hillary were a man,
yeah. You have to basically see what kind of reverberation that gets. Well, the whole thing, what is the women's card exactly? I had several of my friends ask me what they get with the women's card, and I was hard-pressed to answer it. But, that was an interesting comment.
He does seem to go out of his way to alienate women, right? And then say, well, women love me, and, they don't like Hillary. But I just...
Yeah, he's... I don't know if he goes out of his way, but a lot of his statements are considered offensive by many women, let's put it that way. And I'm sure there'll be a constant loop of that 5% comment from last night.
You know it. I'm sure his handlers, to the extent that he has any, are
well, that's nothing going on. There are reports of new infighting in Trump. Right. Also, keep your eye on the fact Cruz, I think, is going to put up a VP nominee pretty soon, too, Bill.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow. Yeah, keep your eye out for that.
All right, we'll do that, and we'll let you go back to breakfast there, David Jackson.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
about that.
At the Waffle Shop. Thank you, David, from USA Today. David Jackson, General Manager of the Washington, D.C. Waffle Shop. We'll be right back.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at Facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
21. My father is run over by a car. He's passed out in the road with a blood alcohol content 4 times the legal limit. I do not cry. 4 months later, the nurses lose his pulse, and I wonder whose life flashed before his eyes. Rewinding VHS tapes, old home videos. 20. 19, I haven't brought a friend home in 4 years. 18, my mother sips the word divorce. Her mouth curls at the taste like it burns going down. 17, I start doing homework at Starbucks. I have more meaningful conversations with the barista than with my family. 16, I wait for Christmas Eve. My brother and I usually exchange gifts to one another early. This year, he and my father exchange blows. My mother doesn't go to Mass. 15, I come up with the theory that my father started drinking again because maybe he found out I'm gay. Like, if he could make everything else blurry, maybe somehow I'd look straight. 15. My mother cleans up his vomit in the middle of the night and cooks breakfast in the morning like she hasn't lost her appetite. 15. I blame myself. 15. My brother blames everyone else. 15. My mother blames the dog. 15. Super Bowl Sunday, my father bursts through the door like an avalanche, picking up speed and debris as he falls. Banisters, coffee tables, picture frames, tumbling, stumbling. I find his AA chip on the kitchen counter. 14. My father's been sober for 10, maybe 11 years. I just know we don't even think about it anymore. 13. 12. 11, Mom tells me Daddy's meetings are for AA. She asks if I know what that means. I don't. I nod anyway. 10. My parents never drink wine at family gatherings. All my other aunts and uncles do. I get distracted by the TV and forget to ask why. 9. 8. 7. 6. I want to be Spider-Man. Or my dad. They're kind of the same. 5. 4. 3. I have a nightmare. The recurring one about Ursula from The Little Mermaid. So I get up. I waddle toward Mommy and Daddy's room, blankie in hand. I pause. Daddy's standing in his underwear, silhouetted by a refrigerator light. He raises a bottle to his lips. 2. 1. 0. When my mother was pregnant with me, I wonder if she hoped, as so many mothers do, that her baby boy would grow up to be just like his father.
This is the Bill Press Show.
And we have just begun trying to sort out all the issues and the questions raised by the big primaries yesterday. One of the big ones is Bernie Sanders, he has certainly started a political revolution. Now, if he is not going to be the nominee of the party, how does he pull off the revolution? What is required? What kind of organization? What kind of follow-through? He's certainly got a big fundraising list, but can he keep the political revolution going, and how? We'll get into that in the next hour here.
This
on the
is
Bill
the Bill Press Show.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aqua Force. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important That's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aqua Force going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Donald Trump sweeps the eastern states, winning 5 out of 5. Hillary Clinton close behind with 4 out of 5. It looks like the big Trump-Clinton match that we're heading for. Hello, everybody. Here we are, the morning after Wednesday, April, not October yet.
Whoa.
April 27. So good to see you today. I'm sure, like me, you are all up to the wee hours of the morning trying to sort out the returns and watching the delegate count and the candidates scramble for positioning after the results were known. All eyes for Republicans now on yesterday a week. May 3rd, and Indiana, which Ted Cruz has said is his territory. He has staked it out, and that is where he is going to stop the Donald Trump Express. So he thinks, so he says. Don't think it's going to happen. But we'll take a look at the returns on the Republican side, the Democratic side, from every angle. And, of course, get your calls at 866-55-PRESS. Look forward to hearing from you. Also, your comments on Twitter, a lot easier maybe, at Bill Press Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here with Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson on the team.
Good morning, sir.
Ray Rogers taking your calls, 866-55-PRESS, Cyprian Bolding on the video cam. So we're looking good on Free Speech TV and TawkrTV. And, you know, he wasn't there last night in the crowd. At least we didn't see him. He certainly wasn't standing right behind Donald Trump, but Ben Carson spoke out yesterday on Fox News explaining why he supports Donald Trump. And it's very easy because he is a man of science.
I fully support him, but, you know, what I was saying is that I'm pragmatic. You know, I've grown up in the world of science where, you know, we do things based on evidence and on facts. And when you look at the pathway that the other people have, it only works through a brokered convention.
So, of course, if you're a man who cares about facts, and about knowledge,
he's a learned doctor,
and about science, that leads you straight to the door of Donald Trump.
Donald J. Trump, right? That's right.
Oh, I miss him.
He's a man who deals in facts and science. That's why he knows that the pyramids were nothing more than grain silos. Remember? Believe me. Believe me.
I hear the science courses at Trump University. Top notch.
All right. Hey, we're going to start off this hour with SV Date from the National Journal. John Allen from Sidewire joins us a little bit later, as well as Kevin Robillard from Politico. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Apple has had 13 years of quarterly revenue growth, but that all came to a stop yesterday when they said that their stock had declined 13%, down to only $50.6 billion dollars worth of sales of its flagship product, the iPhone. The iPhone sales have been declining, and that is the reason that they are using and saying that this is why.
Because everybody has one.
Well, here's what people are saying, right? Like Apple used to have like a big new iPhone every year, and the last couple of releases have been slowly like incremental changes, while other smartphones have sort of picked up where Apple left off and have taken and run. So more people are actually buying other smartphones besides the iPhone, believe it or not. So yeah, that's a big deal. 13 straight years of quarterly growth, and now it's hit a wall. So this 12-year-old young woman, Leanne Rodriguez, was registered to race in the 5K race in Rochester, New York. 5K. So she showed up a little late.
Wouldn't you call a 12-year-old a girl?
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
yeah,
that's okay.
Sure, yeah, she's a girl.
That's not
a
sexist
young lady.
remark,
Yeah,
right?
all right.
Okay.
So,
I'm just curious. Go ahead.
I guess she had registered to run in this 5K race, and she showed up a little late, saw all the runners, got in line, started running. Okay, and then she realized she was in the wrong race. She had gotten in line to race the half marathon in Rochester, but she didn't want to stop. She just kept running and running and running, and she actually finished in a time of 2 hours, 43 minutes, 31 seconds. Her mother became a little worried because she never finished the 5K race that she was waiting for.
Oh, wow.
And then the daughter finally crossed the finish line, having just run a half marathon. She said once she got going, she just didn't want to stop, so she finished the race.
Well, good for her, right?
Yeah, it's right. Isn't that great?
I mean, it just shows, she can do, more than she thought. That's great.
Yeah. And a new study in the Journal of Family Psychology has the most thorough study ever of whether or not it's okay to spank your child. This was 5 decades worth of research involving more than 160,000 children. It's a huge study, and they concluded we should not be spanking our children. That's something a lot of us already learned and knew.
How long? 30 years?
Yeah, 50 years. 5 decades this thing took.
Yeah,
They're saying that punishment like this makes youngsters more likely to be defiant. It instills aggressive behavior in them, and it doesn't actually give you the end result that you're looking for, have them not doing something, right?
Yeah.
So don't spank your children. That's official from this study.
All right, good. Don't drink and drive. Don't smoke.
These are just
Don't
truths
spank
now.
your children.
These are just truths.
I mean, that's a long time. 12 minutes after the hour, indeed, Donald Trump with a commanding win last night in 5. He says he's the presumptive nominee, and it certainly looks like it. But there are a lot of Republicans who are very nervous about his ability to unite the party, to lead the party, and actually to win the White House. SV Date has been talking to some of them for the National Journal, and joins us on our newsline this morning. Hello, SV. It's always good to have you with us. Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So the big question about, this came up on the panel I was on CNN last night. There are a lot of true conservative Republicans who do not consider Donald Trump either a conservative maybe or a Republican. What do they do now?
Well, what they do is probably we'll get him next time, because I don't know what else they can what hope to accomplish in this primary season. He's within 250 delegates or so. In order to take it from him, it would literally be taking it from him. They'll have to make the argument that, okay, the guy who came in second place with 400 fewer delegates, he's the one who should get the nomination, not the one who came in first with 3 million more votes. So it would get really, really ugly for them at the convention. I mean, some of them say, "Oh no, it's those are the rules. They know the rules." But you know what? This isn't a game. This is elections of the President of the United States, and I don't think the voters would be at all good with using the technical rules in order to give someone other than Trump the nomination. If in fact he ends up like we think he will, right around 1190 or 1200 or 1210, whatever.
Now, we were talking a little bit earlier about one of the things that was astounding last night is that he rolled up these huge majorities, these huge margins in the 5 states, and he did not spend, to my knowledge, a dime on paid media. It was all free media. And this morning, I saw he was on CNN's New Day on the phone for like 15 minutes. And then he went over to Morning Joe, and he was on the phone for another 10 minutes or more. But now we're heading into a general election. You can't do a general election just with free media, correct? And can Donald Trump raise that's one thing you've written about. Can he raise the amount of money necessary to run a presidential campaign?
Almost certainly not. And that's where the party folks down in Florida, they just had their spring meeting.
Yes.
I was down there and talking to them, and they understand that he's nowhere near as rich as he claims to be. And even if he were, he's not going to spend it running a general election campaign, which could be close to $1 billion to be competitive. So they need him to go out and work with the party to raise a lot of money. And the ones who are putting a happy face on this are saying, well, the structure is there. The machinery is in place. All we need is someone. It's almost like a turnkey operation. It doesn't matter who the nominee is. Anyone can raise $1 billion given what we put together. I don't know if that's true, and there are a lot of folks down there who kind of acknowledge that it's not, that it needs some hard work. It needs someone to come in with some savvy doing this. I mean, Mitt Romney came in. He'd run for governor once. He'd chaired the Olympic Committee. So he had a network already in place. Every candidate before him also had that. Trump does not. So they're left with that, and then they don't know what to do.
Well, won't some of them, I've heard this rumored at any rate, just decide, look, our money is better spent on Senate races, on House races, on governor's races, or even state legislative races than some impossible attempt to win the White House with Donald Trump? That's absolutely correct. I mean, even before the spring meeting, there was a lot of talk of, look, if Trump's the nominee, forget it. We're going to try to protect the Senate. We're going to make sure we don't also lose the House, and that's where our money's going to go. And if Mr. $10 billion man, like he claims, gets a nomination, then he can fund his own campaign. We're going to protect the party. So that feeling had already been there. Watch for it to intensify, at least in terms of the people who can write the big checks and the big bundlers going forward. Right. Is he? There's talk. I think it was I saw on Morning Joe or something this morning. He said, "Well, the RNC and I get along just fine." I mean, I haven't really seen any sign of that, I guess. Right. But my question is, can he unify the party? Unify in what sense? I mean, there's unifying, getting everybody together to win the White House. I guess. No, he can't. I mean, anything can happen, and I'm as surprised as anybody that he's gotten this far. Right? But I did think back last summer that if he started looking like he was serious, grown-up people in the Republican Party would say, "This is not a serious person." And it's not plausible, and it shouldn't be plausible for someone who doesn't know anything about the world, who just talks, who just says crazy things, says offensive things to a lot of people, shouldn't be allowed to be our nominee, and taken steps back then when it was possible to do something. And I was wrong. They didn't do anything. And so who knows? Having said that, no other candidate has gone into the general election with the kind of negatives that Donald Trump is going to go into. I mean, he even last night, in what could have been a very gracious speech, he managed to offend 53% of the voting population by saying, Hillary Clinton would have only gotten 5% support if she'd been a man. So I think even Chris Christie's wife rolled her eyes at that. Oh no, yeah. Mary Pat is the star of the show today, right? Of certainly of the social media because of the eye rolling on when he made that statement. I mean, there's going to be some sense of he's our guy, and this is a tribal warfare, and anyone but Hillary, and so on and so forth. And there were a lot of candidates on the stage last year among the Republicans who said anyone on this stage is better than Hillary Clinton. Okay, well, did they really mean Donald Trump too? Do they mean that? Because that's who they're going to have now. And that's what the party, got themselves. And they didn't take him more seriously and didn't decide that there ought to be a threshold. Well, which raises a question. For Democrats, could it be a case of be careful what you wish for? Absolutely, it could. And a lot of strategists actually tell me that hey, we can beat Cruz. We know how to beat Cruz because he has extreme positions. He's a known quantity. He walks and talks like a right-wing Republican. We can deal with that. We can beat him. The map is in our favor.
and has been. The demographics are in our favor. Trump is a wild card. We have no idea what he's going to say. We have no idea what he's going to do. We have no idea what is popular among people who we think are going to vote for us. I mean, never before has there been an entertainer who's become a household fixture for 15 years on TV become a presidential candidate. Has not happened before. I mean, he's better known by far than Ronald Reagan ever was with all his movies. So this is we're entering a brand new territory here. But on the other hand, a lot of the things he said over the last year, even if he got all that free media, remember, all that free media helped boost him among Republican primary voters. It also drove up his negatives among general election voters at the same time.
Yeah, he has huge disapproval numbers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And there he is. Looks like the nominee. I'm telling you. Well, where we go from here, who knows? We got a little way to go before the convention at any rate. I don't know about you, SV, but we are going to be in Cleveland. And we're going to be there the week ahead of time when the Rules Committee meets, too, man. That's going to be, it's worth the price of admission for that.
Right. But, actually, it does seem that if he gets within 1,150.
Oh, right.
Right, and gets within 100 delegates. I mean, a lot of folks told me down there that, look, how with a straight face do you say, no, the rules said 1237, and that's the game, and you lost, and now we get to pick whoever we want. Well, what's the point of having all these primaries? I mean, why do we go through all this exercise for all these months if it was that, they in the end mean nothing? So,
that scenario, I think, of taking it away from him at the convention is just not going to happen. All right, SV, great to catch up with you. So much. Thanks so much for your good work and your time this morning. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Take care.
All right, SV Date with the National Journal, nationaljournal.com.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is The Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom,
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go at 26 minutes after the hour. The morning after the great big primary, and Donald Trump basically wrapping it up for the Republicans, and Hillary Clinton coming close to wrapping it up for the Democrats. So much so that at the end of the evening, Bernie Sanders put out a statement from Huntington, West Virginia, where he was campaigning. Very significant. The first line of which says, "I congratulate Secretary Clinton on her victories tonight, and I look forward to issue-oriented campaigns in the 14 contests to come." There are 14 more contests, 10 states and 4 territories still to come before the 14th of June, which is the very last one, which happens to be the D.C. primary. The last really big one is June 7, when there is California and New Jersey and a couple of other states. And Bernie Sanders points out that he's going to stay in this until every vote is cast in every state, because he says, even though he may not be the nominee, that his campaign is about a lot more than that, he said last night in West Virginia.
This campaign is not just about electing a president, it is about transforming our nation.
Or, as he often says, about a political revolution. So the question, I'd love to get your take on this. This is very, very important, is how does Bernie Sanders, how do we as progressives continue this revolution that Bernie Sanders has started and not just let it disappear, which is what so often happens after an election. You get all charged up, you've got to build this great movement, you got all these people kind of going in one direction, and then, win a contest. So what do you do?
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power.
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name
is
Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour. Morning after the Acela primary or Super Tuesday 4, whatever you want to call it. Rhode Island, Connecticut, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Delaware weighing in, all 5 of them weighing in big time, big margins for Donald Trump on the Republican side. 4 out of 5 for Hillary Clinton with pretty hefty margins. Connecticut was a little close for those for Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders winning Rhode Island by about 12 or 13 points. And it looks like after last night, we see the nominees of the 2 parties, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders vowing that he will continue to let voters have a choice, meaning he's not going to drop out, continue all the way to the end of the process, which for all practical purposes is June 7th, so that everybody has a vote, every Democrat at least has a vote on what they want, what issues are important to them, where they stand on the progressive issues like minimum wage and income inequality and climate change, or single payer, Medicare for all, and what they want the direction of the Democratic Party to take as well. So it's not the end of the road last night, but a very a big turning point, shall we say, right?
Feels like it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then the question is, okay, if Bernie is not going to be the nominee, then what do we do with this big progressive movement and this revolution that he has built? How can we keep it going? Or are we just going to let it die? 866-55-PRESS, your questions and your comments, welcome. But, Peter, let's start out by reviewing again some of the returns I sent. But before we get to the presidential, I also wanted to point out there were some very, very important ballot races last night. Two of them in particular we've been watching. We haven't had a chance to talk about today. But Chris Van Hollen won a big victory over Donna Edwards in the Maryland Senate primary to replace Senator Barbara Mikulski. You've heard us say many times, you've heard both of them on this program many times in studio, two good friends of the program, which is why we stayed completely out of that race. Yeah.
It was tough.
Chris took an early lead, and then Donna was catching up with a lot of help from Emily's List. In the end, Chris Van Hollen, who ended up being endorsed by Senator Harry Reid and most of the Democratic establishment, Senator Chris Van Hollen, won last night pretty soundly, and he will be the next Democratic senator from the state of Maryland.
I think that's safe to say, yes.
The sad part of that is, the way it works, is it means that Donna Edwards will no longer be a member of the House, which is very, very unfortunate because she is a great, great progressive and a great person. And the other big Senate primary nearby in Pennsylvania, Katie McGinty, who's been a guest of this program, a friend of mine. I've known her from the Clinton White House days, winning the Democratic primary with the help of, again, the Democratic establishment over Joe Sestak, former congressman, former admiral in the Navy.
Yeah.
And another real progressive and kind of a anti-establishment kind of rabble-rouser.
Also notable to point out.
I say that lovingly.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Also notable out of Pennsylvania.
But Katie's a great, great person. She'll be great.
The first incumbent victim fell last night. Shaka Fatah lost to Dwight Evans in Pennsylvania. So that's not good for incumbents.
And here in Maryland for Chris Van Hollen's seat, another hotly contested congressional race where State Senator Jamie, forget her last name, beat out a very wealthy businessman, Dan Trone. Who spent $12 billion. Billion. But still, $12 billion.
He could be president with that kind of money.
No, $12 million for a House race. He spent $12 million, came in second. Kathleen Matthews, the wife of Hardball's Chris Matthews, came in third.
Jamie Raskin is the name.
Jamie Raskin. Right. Anyhow, let's take a look at starting the Republican side with just to show you how resoundingly Donald Trump won.
Yeah, huge wins for Donald Trump. Connecticut, Donald Trump, 57.7% of the vote. John Kasich in second, 28.5%. Ted Cruz way back at 11%. Delaware, Donald Trump over 60%, 60.8%, beats John Kasich, who pulled in 20.4%, over 40-point whooping there. Ted Cruz in third, 15%. In Maryland, Donald Trump 54.4%, John Kasich 23%, Ted Cruz 18%. Pennsylvania, Donald Trump 56.7%, Ted Cruz, the only state he came in second, 21.6%, John Kasich just behind him at 19.4%. And then Rhode Island, biggest win for Donald Trump last night, 63.6% in Rhode Island. John Kasich, 24.5%. Ted Cruz, only 10% of the vote there.
And Donald Trump ends up with over 400 more delegates than Ted Cruz.
Yeah, the final delegate, or where we stand with the delegate count right now, is Donald Trump is well ahead. He has, after last night, 988 of the 1,237 that he needs. Ted Cruz is at 568. For the record, John Kasich is 152, Marco Rubio at 173.
Yes.
Donald Trump is close.
Oh, yeah.
He's getting close.
Right. And on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton winning 4 out of 5.
Yes, indeed. She won in Connecticut, 51-46. In Delaware, 59-39. In Maryland, 63-33. In Pennsylvania, 55-43. And Rhode Island is where Bernie Sanders won, 54-43.
The next for the Republicans, the next thing is Indiana.
Indiana.
Well, it's for everybody. It's
Yeah.
Indiana next Tuesday.
Yeah, next week.
May 3rd. Ted Cruz, as we know, made this deal with John Kasich that he'll take care of Indiana and Kasich stays out of Indiana. Basically, Ted Cruz setting it up so that he either wins in Indiana or it's all over.
Sounded that way.
Yeah.
His talk last night, I caught right before some of the election results started to come in, essentially said, we're going to get beat, but this is my state. Like, this is where I'm going to win. I'm going to win here. This is favorable ground, he called it. If he doesn't win there, I don't know what his argument is for moving forward.
Right. Back as we talked about Bernie Sanders, the question about, his goal has been more than just winning, although that's he certainly wanted to win and be the nominee and be the next president of the United States. Because his goal is all about changing the Democratic Party and changing the agenda. And for the general election, that means changing the platform. How do you go about keeping that alive? I mean, think about it. Howard Dean tried, right? He built up maybe the first one online to build up a lot of young people and get that. Or Ron Paul on the other side, even Barack Obama in 2008, right? And for a while he had this OFA, Organizing for America. But, it'd be hard to say that either one of them really built up a major political force that people had to reckon with.
Yeah.
And that's what you need if you're going to keep the pressure on for the Democratic Party to really embrace the progressive agenda and make it that priority, get back to representing working men and women rather than Wall Street, like the Republican Party. You got to have a force. Now, Bernie's got a lot going for him. I mean, he really has gotten it. I think he's really well on his way to bringing about this political revolution. For one thing, he's got the best list anybody has ever had. When you raise $46 million in the month of March, and these are people who have given once, twice, three, whatever, 4 times, right? Average contribution now $26. You got that list. He's got that source of money. He's got that enthusiasm. How do you harness it and keep it going? Let's say hello to Ron out in Elgin, Illinois. What do you say, Ron?
Good morning, folks. The way you keep it going is you allow Bernie to stay in the race and to talk about those issues. That is the way you're going to unify the party. Hillary knows this, that if you keep him in the party, then the people in, for example, California, when they vote for Bernie, they're voting for the issues and the unification of the party coalescing under things like minimum wage, free college tuition, which I think Hillary mentioned last night in her speech.
She mentioned minimum wage, and she mentioned Citizens United, right, and getting the money out of politics.
Right.
She didn't say tuition-free college.
I thought she did at the end, but maybe not. Maybe not.
It was a phrase. It was a phrase that was close, but not quite. You know what I mean?
That's a good example, though, of how the party could come together under that issue.
Well, one of the
the
points you're making, Ron, is that one of the first ways that Bernie, I think, can keep the revolution going. First of all, absolutely stay in the race until all the states have voted, right? But then also say, okay, Hillary, we're gonna get all our people together behind you, but we want you to come around on a couple of these issues, right? We want you. In fact, let's talk about that. What do you think Bernie should demand of Hillary, if anything? And these conversations always take place toward the end of a contest, right?
Right.
Because the person who wins wants the person to runner up to endorse them. So what might Bernie ask for? He can't place any real solid conditions, but he could say, okay, Hillary, how about the $15 minimum wage? Get off that 12 deal, right? Let's go 15.
Yeah.
How about the constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United?
Yeah.
I don't think she's endorsed that yet.
I don't think so either.
Right. Okay. How about free community college? How about getting rid of caucuses? Uh-oh. We might get some flack on that one from some of our listeners in Minnesota or Iowa. How about letting independents vote in the primaries? So those are the kind of things we're going to be talking about here and building an organization. And I think people, they want Bernie to continue, but not just through the primaries. They want Bernie to continue to be a political force forever.
Yeah.
It's a movement. Not just a campaign. It's a movement. 866-55-PRESS. How do we talk about it? Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Maybe we come back and talk a little bit about that, too. And think about what the first debate's going to be like. We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
I have never felt so at ease as the day you called me precocious. I have never feared big words, only those that refuse to use them, and the syllables rolled off your tongue like honey. I was hooked. Language became our vein of communication, and I know that everybody uses language to communicate, but ours was different. As if in between the letters and the syllables there was a secret message only we could decipher. My days were filled with the sound of your voice, and your nights were littered with the loops of my handwriting. We exchanged our favorite words, mine being illuminated and yours being cattywampus. And our least favorites, mine moist and yours almost. And when I asked you why, you said it was because almost held failed potential, that it represented our ability to be just not good enough, that we had come to the brink of something beautiful but fell short so many times we crafted a word for it. But even we, with our supposed mastery of the English language, were not immune to the shortcomings of our vocabularies. Words can only help you if you speak them. I never told you that I loved you. You never told me that you were dying. 5 easy words that would have shattered our worlds. I love you, I think. I have a brain tumor. You know, still to this day, I don't know all the details because medical jargon has never fit right in my mouth. And even now, 5 years later, it feels like an invasion of your privacy. But I do know I have pored over our conversation, searching for the secret message you certainly tried to send me, and I am sorry. But I only almost found it. Salt water is not good for paper, and my tears warped your words. After some serious consideration, I've decided to change my least favorite word, because while moist is gross, malignant is malicious. Malignant is uncontrollable, means a phone call and the phrase, he didn't wake up. Malignant is messy and unfair and a thief. Malignant means I never got to say goodbye. Malignant is the cause of almost. Because you were on the brink of something beautiful, but you couldn't quite reach it, and you fell too far. I am so sorry I wasn't there to catch you. I hope your heaven is a library, and I hope it is void of almosts. Te amo, Daniel. Sleep well.
Y'all like that poem? Say hell yeah.
He's not running for president, but he will shake hands and kiss babies. It's the Bill Press Show, your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election.
11 minutes before the top of the hour. John Allen, our good friend, will be here in studio with us at the top of the next hour. He's in charge of community and content for Sidewire and a columnist at Roll Call. And then from Politico, Kevin Robillard joining us as well in the next hour. Today, 82 days before the Republican convention opens in Cleveland, and that promises to be one of the wildest conventions yet, because it looks like he could possibly get to 1237 before Cleveland.
Yeah.
But most likely, it looks like Donald Trump is going to get to the cusp of it, and yet not get over the finish line. So it'll go to the first ballot, and Donald Trump is going to have to get out there and scrub for delegates.
Yeah.
And of course, Ted Cruz and John Kasich are going to be try to prevent his winning on the first ballot, so they could snare it away from him.
It's going to be
on
intense.
2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or run down the line.
It will be very intense. And by the way, we should point out, David Jackson alluded to this earlier. Ted Cruz says he's going to be making a big announcement today. So this could be the moment.
Today?
Today, he says he's going to make a big announcement today. This could be the day that he names his running mate, and it could be Carly Fiorina.
They've been vetting Carly Fiorina. I hope he chooses Carly Fiorina.
My God.
You know, they deserve each other. If you had to think of the two most unlikable people in the country, those who have more personal enemies than anybody else in politics, it'd be Ted Cruz and Carly Fiorina.
They deserve each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And as we said during the primary, when she was a candidate and kept turning people off right and left, if you want to see what she would do to the country, take a look at what she did to Hewlett-Packard.
You take a look.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not good.
Right. And now, again, a lot of attention on I was very proud of Bernie last night. I thought he was a real class act. He stood up and said, hey, we want every American to have a right to vote. That's what the primaries are all about, and we're going to focus on the issues, and then we're going to the convention and really work on that, hammer on that party platform. And then, of course, we'll be there. In fact, Jamie, we have that where Bernie said that he would make sure that he would do everything he can to prevent any Republican from ever winning the White House.
I intend to do everything I can, if I am not the nominee, to make sure that some Republican does not sit in the White House. But for the moment, we're going to fight all the way to the Philadelphia Convention, and we're going to win as many delegates as we can, and we believe we do have a path toward victory.
Yeah, win as many delegates as you can. That's the way to have some influence over the platform. So where do we go from here? In Minerva, New York. Hello, Matt. Thanks for joining us. What's your take?
Hey, Bill.
Hi.
My take is that last week they had a big argument about who's more a Democrat, Hillary or Bernie.
Yeah.
And they also made out like Hillary is a great Democratic supporter because she goes out and raises all this money for the Democrats. Well, last week, Bernie Sanders could have registered over 3 million new voters in the Democratic Party, but they denied it because the fix was in for Hillary.
You mean because the independents could not vote in New York?
It up a little more.
Yeah, yeah. No, you know, I talked about, it's funny, I talked about that last night on CNN too. I think that's a real mistake for, first of all, I think it's outrageous. And I think it's a real mistake for Democrats. And that's one thing, that's one, by the way, that's one issue. Peter, we're talking about things that Bernie might kind of push for.
Yeah.
Look, I think that there are more registered independents today than registered Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Democrats cannot win the presidency with Democrats alone. They need new voters. They need independents. And so if you want the independents in the general election, it seems to me you got to give them a little love in the primary. And you got to let them vote in the primary.
Yeah.
And open up the primary. Now, I can't tell you, I wrote a column on that last week. Ever since that column, man, I have been getting so much flack from my fellow Democrats who say, no. You have to, if you're not a member of the club, you can't vote in the club. Well, you know, if you want to be a member of some exclusive club, go join the Lions Club or the Rotary Club or something, or the Metropolitan Club downtown Washington. But that's not what the Democratic Party is all about. All right, we're ready for hour number 3. Yes, indeed. And you can follow us right away on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, or sit back and then come back at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 Central, 2 Pacific to watch on Free Speech TV. In our third hour, John Allen's going to join us from Sidewire to take a look at last night's results, and then we'll be joined by Kevin Robillard from Politico as well, keeping the talk going about the big Acela primary and what lurks ahead in Indiana a week from yesterday. Hour number 3 coming up.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Pretty light schedule at the White House today. President Obama gets a daily briefing with the Vice President about 10:30. Then the two of them have lunch, their weekly lunch together today. This afternoon, the President, repeat performance. He will be welcoming the U.S. Naval Academy team to the White House. That loves getting those championship teams in the East Room of the White House to celebrate their success. We have our regular daily briefing with Josh Ernest at 12:45. We start off the next hour with John Allen from Roll Call and Sidewire.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. The whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Donald Trump romps through the Middle... Wait, starting to say the Middle East. Well, he'll do that when he's president. He romps through the Mid-Atlantic states.
Mid-Atlantic.
And Hillary Clinton not far behind. Donald Trump winning 5 states, Hillary Clinton 4. Bernie Sanders taking care of Rhode Island. Hey, hello, everybody. The morning after the big Super Tuesday 4, as CNN was calling it, or the so-called Acela primary. Here we are on this Wednesday, April 27, taking a look at the results, assessing the damage, and considering where everything goes from here. Or is it, in fact, all over, and we've got Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton as the general election opponents, candidates for 2016. John Allen joins us from Roll Call and Sidewire. Nobody knows the political scene better than John Allen. Good to have you here, sir. Were you up all night?
I was up all night. Watching all this. I like to think of it as the Northeast Regional primary rather than Acela.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I end up on the regional a little more often than the Acela.
Northeast Regional, right. Yeah, it's cheaper.
Acela's a little elite. Not that I've never been on it, but...
and it gets you, the regional gets you there almost as fast as the Acela.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
15 minutes longer, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Depends on where you're going.
True.
15 minutes longer to Philadelphia, maybe half an hour to New York.
Right. Okay.
From D.C.
You got it with our team here, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hey.
Hello there.
Here we are.
Guys.
Jamie's in the dunk tank back there.
I get confused when the two of you are in here because I know John is frequently sitting in your seat, and so I'm never. But I don't know which one of you is my boss.
Well, I'll never be sitting in Bill's seat again.
Look at the look Bill just gave me.
But maybe that seat will be open soon.
Yeah, that's right.
Well played.
You're going to have a long wait for your paycheck this Friday.
Yeah, geez.
When you don't see it, just
go ask him.
Yeah, just give John a call. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And remember, I mean, I pay Northeast Regional prices. So.
That's right.
Ray Rogers here on the phones, ready for your calls. A lot of calls already this morning. Keep it going at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolting knows who his boss is. He is loyal. And our
never question
videographer.
that.
All right, so it was really, I thought, elitist to name this primary the Acela primary. I mean, you had to be sort of an insider to know what that was all about, as was proven, John Allen, yesterday by various broadcasters around the country who were trying to identify this primary, right? Here's a little montage I think Bloomberg put together.
They're called the Acela primaries, but what does that mean?
Is it Acela train, Melissa?
Yes.
Acela train. What some are calling the Acela primary.
The Acela primaries.
What some are calling the Acela primary. Okay, anyway.
Acela, Amtrak primary. It's been called a lot of different things today.
So named because Amtrak's famous Acela train, the Acela, the primaries.
The Acela primaries.
Amtrak's famous Acela train. It's called the Ace LA primary.
The Ace LA primary. It's just embarrassing.
When it goes through Baltimore, it's Acela the Hun.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
We'll move on from there. Yes,
that's pretty good.
No, it's great. You got it. So it's all over anyhow, and we'll talk about what it all means with John Allen and you at 866-55-PRESS. But first,
this is the
Yes,
Full
sir.
Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. I told you earlier this week that Lena Dunham said that she would officially move to Canada if Donald Trump became president. She said she would move to
Vancouver.
To Vancouver. Well, Donald Trump said yesterday, he said...
Tough duty, right?
Yeah, right.
Oh, God.
I feel really bad for him.
Don't force me to move to Vancouver.
Well, Donald Trump has responded. He responded. He said he is actually going to make America great again by forcing the likes of Lena Dunham, Whoopi Goldberg, and Rosie O'Donnell, all women that he's had a feud with, and all of the women have said that they would leave the country if he was president. He would make the country great again by making them leave the country.
So now he's deporting everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
At least it's no longer,
just Mexicans, right?
Race or religion based.
Quote, well, she's a B actor, and, she has no mojo, end quote, is what Trump said. He said, we'll get rid of her, we'll get rid of Rosie O'Donnell. I love it. Now I have to get elected because I'll be doing a great service for the country. Yesterday, the White House went on lockdown because someone tried to jump over the White House fence. This story is amazing because, first of all, it happened around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. What happened is a man jumped the fence outside of the Eisenhower Executive Office building, and he was running from the police because he was a robbery suspect. So where do you go when you want to get away from the cops and possibly get away from committing a crime? Jump the fence to the White House. Brilliant thinking by this guy. The White House went into shutdown mode. They got the guy. He suffered a cut on his hand. He was treated, and he is now in the custody of the Secret Service.
To be fair, for a while you could get across the lawn of the White House before you got tackled.
That's true.
That's right.
That's true.
But I understand the Secret Service has gotten a lot tighter and better since then.
Yeah. There's a new idea floating around in New York about how to cut down on texting while driving. It is against the law to text and drive, but it's hard to enforce, unless they catch you in the act. But this is an idea that one man has floated in New York. His name is Ben Lieberman. He's trying to get this into law to try and allow New York to look at your cell phone after an accident to see whether or not you were texting. Now, no one has done this yet. It would be the most aggressive in the country in terms of trying to curb texting while driving. But they said that it would allow police to examine drivers' phones to see if texts were happening at the time of the accident. What do you think about that?
It's going to happen.
I think so too.
I mean,
I've thought about that before when I've been in the car. Like,
Yeah.
if you go to get, you're texting, and not that I do that frequently, but like, if I were to get in an accident, someone could tell when it happened.
Right.
Yeah, they could tell. I mean, look, if the FBI can break into your phone, like in San Bernardino now, I mean, let's just face it.
Yeah.
These are not private.
Yeah, feels like
Everything on here is public.
So another reason not to text and drive.
Yes, another reason.
There you go.
So Donald Trump, here's what he told his supporters last night when he gathered for that, I think, hour-long victory speech cum press conference or whatever you want to call it. But he declared himself.
I consider myself the presumptive nominee, absolutely. I mean, look.
So I consider myself the presumptive nominee. Is he?
Donald Trump's made a living in politics this year, or over the past year, by speaking what some people believe to be truths that are unspoken by the media and civilized society. So,
yeah,
and I think that may be one of them. I think that's where he may be more accurate than anywhere else. Look, is it possible he could be disrupted? Sure. That's why we say presumptive nominee. I think it is harder and harder to make an argument that he's not going to end up with the Republican nomination.
Right. If you just look at the possible paths, right? I mean, Ted Cruz is going to stop him in Indiana. Really?
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, if John Kasich voters all go to Ted Cruz, but I think some of the voters are going to be turned off by this brazen alliance between the two of them. It's one thing to do that. It's another thing to go out there and talk about it.
Yeah. And then also show how incompetent the plan was to begin with by it not even held. It didn't even hold up for 12 hours.
I think they knew it might not because they didn't have the candidates go out there and say it. But they did put out press releases around the time of Game of Thrones to announce it.
That's right.
Yeah. And also the idea inherent in it is the contradiction that Kasich voters could bring themselves to vote for Ted Cruz.
It's easier for a lot of them to get to Trump than it is to get to Cruz.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Right. No, exactly. Or in Washington and Oregon, Oregon and New Mexico, the idea that Cruz voters would see a vote for John Kasich as something they actually wanted to do. I mean, they would take the party in two totally different directions.
Absolutely. I think Trump's got it. I think he'll probably get to 1,237 by the end of the primary calendar.
Without needing an open convention.
Without needing an open convention. But even if he gets 2-3 dozen votes away, he still has an opportunity to convince some unpledged delegates that are going to be there in Cleveland. And it's a big enough universe that, it's hard to see that he wouldn't be able to get the number that he needs. If suddenly he starts, I don't know what it is he would do to stop getting votes, because I've seen a lot of things that would suggest that. But
right,
if he stopped getting votes, he would have a problem at this point.
Yeah, how many times have we said that's going to happen, and it hasn't, and it hasn't happened. And so, but think of the first debate. If we're on the presidential stage now, think of the first debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, or think of this has been preoccupying me this morning, of Donald Trump on the west side of the Capitol giving an inaugural address. I mean, it's just, to me, totally unthinkable.
And yet it could happen. I mean, you get the nomination of a major political party, there is a reasonably good chance that he'll become president of the United States.
It's like a 50-50 chance, right?
Yeah. Right. Maybe a little less in some years,
case,
but
that's it. You've cleared a lot of hurdles.
You got a real shot
point.
at the presidency.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen in a race. And look, we talk about that first debate with Hillary Clinton. Donald Trump has made a living on television for all these years at being adept on television and relatively likable on television. People watched him fire other people and enjoyed it. So you put her next to him on a stage, he's all this charm, all this charisma, and she's devoid of those things. And I think that's a matchup that it's hard to predict how that happens. Now, I don't think everybody votes based on debates. I think we overrate how debates affect our voting. But I think it'll be interesting to watch how her team tries to deal with the Trump phenomenon in a debate.
But some debates have changed the course of a campaign.
It's certainly
perhaps
happens.
few, because we could remember them. Jerry Ford with the Poland thing, and Richard Nixon and JFK. Maybe George H.W. Bush looking at his watch. Those kinds of things. Right?
And we have to attribute shifts to something. And sometimes there are a lot of things that are going on, but what we see is the debate. But you look at all the Democratic debates over the course of the last year or whatever, the primary debates. I think Bernie Sanders acquitted himself really well, and I think one of the reasons he was able to gather steam is you saw him improve in the debates and get sharper and stronger, and was in a lot of ways more compelling than Hillary Clinton was in debates. I think some of the times when he was more compelling, she was making better points, but I think the debates were good for him, and I think they helped him along, and so I think they matter. I don't think it's that they don't matter, but I'll be curious to see what happens when the two go
we had 17 candidates initially, and now there are 2 left. In effect, they're not having. I don't believe they're going to be able to stop him. You've got all these super PACs that were formed, all this money raised, all these ads run to stop him. That didn't work either. So the guy that a lot of Republicans didn't want to consider the possibility of having him as their nominee looks like he's going to be the nominee of the party. Will the party pull behind him?
That's the big question. I've been listening to and talking to Republicans, and there's sort of 2 ways, two sort of options that I hear. One is try to get somebody as a running mate for him who's legitimate, and try to make that seem normal and reasonable, and get behind Trump and hope that Trump, like a Kasich or somebody like that's seen as part of the establishment and kind of knows what's going on in Washington, and can settle down some of the Republican voters who are turned off by Trump. Then the other theory is you let Trump essentially take the Republican Party, and the Republican Party bolts to support a write-in candidate so that some of the down-ballot candidates can point to that person and say, I'm not with Trump, I'm with John Kasich or Marco Rubio or whoever you would get to run that write-in campaign. I think it's going to be hard to get somebody to do that. So my guess is that the Republican Party will do its best to get behind Trump, to at least at the establishment level, get behind him and try to manage what's going on with him. And I think you see that with the insertion of Paul Manafort into that campaign as a top strategist for them.
I want to talk about the Democrats when we come back, but we've heard that Ted Cruz is going to, part of his strategy now to get some attention and get himself back in the news, is to name his running mate today. And we're hearing Carly Fiorina. Yes, winning ticket.
I mean, look, that's exactly what he's trying to do. He's trying to make sure that nobody writes that Donald Trump's the nominee. So one way to make it look like that's not true, or at least you're not conceding it, is to name a vice presidential candidate. I should go down in history with Dick Gephardt as John Kerry's running mate, somebody who never actually got onto a ticket. I don't know if you remember the New York Post had they did a headline, Dick Gephardt's going to be Kerry's not running mate. At least Kerry had the nomination, but they were wrong and it went to John Edwards.
So it wouldn't help Ted Cruz, is what you're saying.
No, I don't think so.
All right. And Bernie Sanders says he is in it, still in it to win it, but he's particularly in it to influence the issues and the party platform and the direction of the Democratic Party. Will that work, and how's he do it? 866-55-PRESS. John Allen here from Roll Call and Sidewire, and your calls welcome. We'll be right back.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. Enough.
Enough.
Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information. Brought to you by This Weekend.
.org. Brought to you by the U.S.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At 26 minutes after the hour, here with John Allen from Roll Call and Sidewire. Kevin Robillard from Politico will join us at the half hour. Before we move on, if we have a chance to get to the Democrats, Donald Trump really let loose yesterday on Hillary Clinton, making, John, what I think is one of the most sexist remarks I've ever heard by any American politician. Here it is with Hillary's kind of response that actually came later in her, earlier in her speech, wasn't in direct response to Trump, but it's put together here.
Frankly, if Hillary Clinton were a man, I don't think she'd get 5% of the vote.
If fighting for women's health care and paid family leave and equal pay is playing the woman card, then deal me in.
But that 5% remark's pretty outrageous, isn't it?
I'm waiting for someone in the Clinton camp to respond with an ad that says, if Donald Trump were a man, if Donald Trump were a real man, he wouldn't say things like that. I mean, the softball that is thrown up in the air like that is incredible, I think, for a talented humorist, ad maker, web video maker. That's a huge unforced error on his part. I mean, look, Donald Trump has been driving the Republican Party toward its old white maleness since he got into the race.
I know. And why? I mean,
it's helping him in primaries, but I don't think it's going to help him in a general election.
Right. 53% of the American electorate, right? Women voters?
Right. I mean, you start carving off the people that he's gone after and targeted the groups. You're basically looking at the entire Democratic coalition.
Well, which raises an interesting question. Because they say, well, Donald Trump won by all these big margins in all these states. But what percentage of the electorate votes in Republican primaries?
Very small percentage, smaller percentage than votes in Democratic primaries usually. It's
which
somewhere
is
around 19%, 20%.
Of the whole electorate, right?
Right.
So
it's 19 or 20% of the eligible Republican voters,
okay.
I think.
Yeah. I bet it's even smaller than that. Yeah. Right. So maybe we put too much stock in how much support he's getting in a Republican primary and what that means for the general.
The moderate and establishment voters will show up in the general election.
Yeah.
And it may be too late for them to determine who the president is.
Right. Okay. Hey, John. Great. Thanks so much for coming in. All right. See you again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we love when you guest host.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right.
On opening body bags after Typhoon Haiyan. I can only imagine it like unearthing a scab. Zipper breaks open one by one. Mothers trying to dig through themselves an umbilical cord to lend life to a limp ghost. There is not enough relief here to hide the scent of what this child used to be. The coconut trees are not high enough to see over the inside out that was made here. Bags do not have the honor of being called burial plots. Churches ain't supposed to be mausoleums. Tacloban was morphed into ground zero. And I watch this while it snows in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where it's easier to live as a rodent than it is to be a colored person. This place drowns my people in a different way. I inhabit both places like jigsaw corpse, trying to find itself whole. These brown boys in Tacloban aren't my cousins, but I want to carry them to safety. These brown girls in Tacloban aren't my daughters, but I want to tell them they're still growing after this choking, but I'm still an ocean away, a language farther from root. A skin tone lighter than the sand, born there, raised here, home nowhere. To watch this storm is a sorry excuse for mourning. It is to need the sun desperately. It is to realize that your body is in one country while your grief is in another. To look at your house, walk to a river, and come back to no house is to be Filipino. To look at your motherland hurting from a TV screen is to be Filipino American. To watch my islands through the blue eyes of Anderson Cooper is the most American I have ever felt, but I still cry for them. And I still pray for them because God tried to make them Atlantis before they were ready to be a myth just yet, because rebuilding is the Filipinos' most intrinsic muscle memory, but most painful trauma, because relief is just a word whose Tagalog translation I don't even know, because this poem is all I can give for my country, bleeding in salt water. Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord keeps trying to drown us. Hallowed be thy bodies. Thy kingdom come down in waves and winds on earth as it is destroyed. Take us this day our daily rations and forgive those who have tried to kill us as we forgive those who have tried to kill us. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us whose skin has always meant sin now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, 33 minutes after the hour, Kevin Robillard from Politico will be joining us here shortly. Taking a look at the wide spectrum of returns last night. Again, I'm sure you've heard by now, in the Northeast primaries, or the Acela primaries, Donald Trump sweeping all five and basically snagging the Republican nomination, although it's not official yet and won't be for maybe a couple of weeks, maybe not until the convention. And Hillary Clinton, in effect, getting a lock on the Democratic nomination, not as tightly as Donald Trump, but still making it very, very difficult for Bernie Sanders now to win the nomination. Hillary Clinton did that by winning 4 out of 5 states yesterday. Bernie Sanders saying, essentially, we may have lost 4 battles, but we didn't lose the war. The war still continues to influence the direction of the Democratic Party and to influence the conversation in the 2016 election and the issues that Democrats run on, namely the party platform, which will be adopted at the convention in Philadelphia. Before we get back to that with Kevin Robillard, there were some down-ballot races of great interest yesterday, not so far down the ballot, but 2 important Senate races in these mid-Atlantic states. One in Pennsylvania, where Katie McGinty, who was the Democratic Party favorite, if you will, in the Democratic primary to run against Pat Toomey, and she was challenged by former Navy Admiral, former member of Congress Joe Sestak from Pennsylvania. The DSCC and Harry Reid both endorsed Katie McGinty, as did President Obama. Cut a TV spot for Katie McGinty. Joe Sestak was ahead all the way until the very end. She pulled up, and she won that primary last night. She'll be a tough challenger to Pat Toomey in November.
While we're in Pennsylvania, by the way, the very first incumbent victim of the primary season last night, Pennsylvania Congressman Chaka Fattah, lost to State Rep Dwight Evans. It should be pointed out that Chaka Fattah is under indictment, so that certainly didn't help his campaign, but he did go down last night.
That seat will probably remain with the Democrats. It was a Democratic primary, but it's hard to run for re-election when you've been indicted. The other Senate seat, the other state with Senate seat of interest, state of Maryland, where two good friends of the program, Chris Van Hollen and Donna Edwards, vying for the Democratic nomination to replace Senator Barbara Mikulski. That started out with Chris Van Hollen ahead. Then it looked like Donna Edwards was catching up. She was even ahead in one poll that I saw. But last night, Chris Van Hollen bounced back and beat her pretty handily.
Yeah, and speaking of Van Hollen's seat, Jamie Raskin ended up winning that last night. Kathleen Matthews, wife of Chris Matthews, finished third in that race. David Trone finished second. So looks like it's going to be Jamie Raskin in that seat.
David Trone, whom someone told me last night it was actually $12 million of his own money that he spent to win a congressional seat. Must be the most expensive ever. And indeed, he has joined us, Kevin Robillard from Politico, here in our studio with us this morning to help us assess results from last night at the national and local level. How you doing?
Great to be on.
All right. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. Get that microphone a little closer to you. Does anybody spend as much money as David Trone?
I do not believe so. People have spent more money on Senate and gubernatorial bids, but for the House, it's been kind of remarkable if you think, this is a guy who's donated a lot of money to progressive causes in the past. He gave $15 million to the ACLU just within the past year. You kind of have to think, what if he had given that $12 million to a Democratic super PAC or donated it to House and Senate candidates? He could have done a lot more than win, a single House seat.
Who is he? Anyhow.
David Trump. So he owns Total Wine and More, which I think, the closest location to D.C., I guess, is in McLean, Virginia.
As a degenerate drunk, I'm fairly well accustomed
yes,
to going
but
to
I believe it is
Wine and More. Is
yes.
that? I got it.
I believe it's the largest wine and beer retailer maybe in the country. I believe at least on the East Coast.
It's gigantic. It's like a Walmart, but for beer and wine.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Never been there. Never heard of it. Right. Chris Van Hollen, the next U.S. Senator from Maryland.
Almost certainly, yeah.
Right. It was interesting in both of the... If this is an anti-establishment year, which it certainly has been in both parties, in this case, the establishment candidates for Senate won.
Yes, very clearly.
Katie McGinty and
Van Hollen. Van Hollen clearly had the backing of most of his colleagues. Donna Edwards, very staunch progressive, hasn't always been well liked by the rest of the Maryland congressional delegation for a whole number of reasons. Some of them terrible, some of them, having to deal with constituent service, things like that. Katie McGinty really was the one who the establishment went truly all in for. Putting Barack Obama, having him endorse her, that's, putting a lot on the line. And really, that made a huge difference. If you look, McGinty was winning black voters by a huge margin, which isn't something that you'd expect to see for, a white politician without any real record in the black community.
Okay. Now, back to the presidential level. Donald Trump says he is the presumptive nominee of the Republican Party, whether he is or he is not. Is Hillary Clinton the presumptive nominee of the Democratic Party after last night?
I would think so. Whether she wants to go out and use the word presumptive might be...
Probably not.
Might be up to her. And, I think Sanders put out a more conciliatory statement than he has in the past. I think it'll be interesting to see, how exactly that translates to what that translates to on the stump. If he just sort of maybe lays off attacking Hillary a little bit, but still goes around delivering his message. The thing with Sanders is he's not going to run out of money. He's not going to run out of crowds. Why should he drop out? There's, even if he isn't going to win, if he wants to go out there and spread his message, why not?
And he has over 1,400 delegates.
Yeah.
There is something going on here.
Yes,
there
clearly.
is an appeal, right, to his message and his issues and his direction, right?
Definitely.
So the question is that we've been asking this morning, and I've been asking as a Sanders supporter. Okay, he started out saying, "I want a political revolution." Right? Well, he certainly got one started.
Yeah.
Right. Now, how does he keep it? Can he keep it going, and how?
That's a very interesting question because so far this year, he definitely hasn't. Sanders, I think the glaring example of this is John Fetterman, who ended up finishing third last night in Pennsylvania. Fetterman, mayor of Braddock, Pennsylvania, very unique figure. He's this huge, towering man. He's 6'8", tattoos, and ended up getting 22% of the vote, I believe, in Pennsylvania, which is well better than any poll had done for him. He had endorsed Sanders and had basically in the past 2 weeks or so really been out there saying, hey, Bernie, endorse me back. We can do something here. And that endorsement never came. And so it's a matter of he has to start making those endorsements. And I guess, it's a question of how strategically he wants to do it. He has started raising some money for down ballot candidates. But, clearly he can't dilute what he's done too much. He can't go out and start raising for, everyone who says they want to take on Wall Street. He does have to pick and choose the winners, I would guess. And I guess it's really a determination of how exactly he wants to use that clout. And really his clout at this point is that fundraising list, which is, every Democrat on the planet wants to get their hands on it.
Right. Can he, does he have the power or the to go to Hillary Clinton and say, I'll do everything I can for you publicly and encourage my people to do so, but here are some things that I want in the platform. I want a $15 minimum wage. I want a constitutional amendment to repeal Citizens United. I want Medicare for all. Not the entire list, but a few things on the list.
I think that's it, because a lot of this ends up, and these are all very sort of archaic processes, who ends up on the platform committee. Sanders' campaign has already complained a little bit that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was stacking the platform committee.
She did.
With Clinton loyalists. So it'll be interesting to see how many Sanders delegates sort of fill out the rest of that platform committee. But I think, he clearly has already pulled Hillary to the left. You saw Hillary sort of tentatively endorse a $15 minimum wage in the New York debate. I don't think there's any way she would have done that had Sanders not been running. And I think there's just, shifts in Hillary's rhetoric that have happened because of Sanders, which opens up the door for things like that.
Her speech last night, I made the comment that if you listened to her speech last night, Bernie Sanders could almost have been standing in back of her with a sign that said, "Mission accomplished." Because she talked about minimum wage, she talked about college tuition, she talked college, not tuition-free college, but debt-free or whatever. But her version. She talked about getting rid of Citizens United, campaign finance reform. She basically went down the list, right?
Yeah.
It
she really
sounded like
did.
a Bernie speech almost. I
Yeah.
mean, not as far as Bernie would go, but the issues she talked about were the Bernie issue. Income inequality she talked about.
Yeah. And I think all of these things, some of them Hillary would have adopted along the way anyway, just because they're so popular with the Democratic base. Like ending Citizens United, I think, in many ways with, white progressives is the number one
I
issue.
have to disagree with you a little bit. She would have talked about anyway. She would not have talked about without Bernie Sanders having raised them, I believe. And that's why he got in this race in the first place.
Yeah.
Because these are the issues that he's been fighting for his entire life. And he felt had to be the centerpiece of 2016. And he didn't count on her to raise them without somebody goading her into doing so.
I think that's true. I think the question is, if Bernie hadn't, would someone else have? And I'm not sure anyone else could have. Sanders
Except Elizabeth Warren.
Except Elizabeth Warren, who I think, has shown zero interest in running for president.
Yeah.
So I think after seeing that, and I think Sanders is clearly trying to, make his influence known. He's talked about who he thinks Hillary should pick as a VP, what kind of qualities that person should have. And so I think he has leverage here, and I think he's willing to use it.
Yeah, I do too. And I think his followers want him to use it.
Yes.
And they don't want him to just go away, and they don't want to just go away. But as we said a little earlier, others have tried and failed. I mean, Eugene McCarthy, Howard Dean, Ron Paul, right? Even Barack Obama to build a movement, and nobody's succeeded. Bernie, I think, has a better shot at any of the others because of the list, because of the money. But that path that's going to be still a huge, huge challenge. When we come back, let's try to imagine, as difficult as it is, a general election contest between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Or between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. The Hillary Clinton part we can understand. The Donald Trump part, we have a hard time getting our arms around. Kevin Robillard here with us from Politico, campaign reporter, obviously. And you are welcome to join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Make it 11 minutes before the hour. Yes, indeed, these primaries, they are long, and the morning afters are long as well. We're wrapping up our coverage here of the so-called Acela primary yesterday. Again, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Delaware. And afterwards, the dust was all settled. It looks like the two that did the best last night did well enough that they could very well be the nominees of their party. Kevin Robillard here with us from Politico. What would a matchup between Hillary Clinton, who is probably the most experienced person ever to run for the office, and Donald Trump, the least? What will that matchup look like? And is it necessarily going to be as one-sided as we think it might?
So on the one-sided question, right now, all the polling points towards yes. You know, you hear a lot of Republicans talk about sort of these white working class, high school educated voters that Trump will turn out. But for every one of those voters he might turn out, he's turning off, you know, a suburban white woman who really at this point are the swing voters that determine most of the swing states in the United States.
Yeah.
And if right now Trump is losing white women, Romney won them pretty handily. If you're losing white women as a Republican, you're not going to win a national election. You're not going to win any election, really, in any state that has any sort of minority population. So right now, all the polling would indicate, yes, it is going to be one-sided. As for what it would look like, I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Hillary handles this, because Trump is going to be out there every day just saying crooked Hillary, crooked Hillary, crooked Hillary over and over. And I imagine, you know, being just as bombastic as he's always been, I'm sure he'll bring up the Lewinsky scandal. And, you know, if you're Hillary, do you just put your head in the sand and just run a campaign and try to ignore this stuff?
I mean, last night he blamed her for NAFTA. Well, she supported NAFTA, but that, I mean, and look, I was opposed to NAFTA then, I'm opposed to it now, but that was Bill's baby, not really hers. But he'll stop at nothing, right?
Yeah.
So what does she do? I mean, I can't see her getting in the gutter with him.
But at the same time, can you put your head in the sand and just try to run a campaign that doesn't acknowledge your opponent? Maybe you can. But at the same time, Hillary, her numbers still aren't great. Perhaps it's just when she's put next to Trump as the two choices, people will start to approve of her.
They both have high disapproval ratings.
Yes. Yeah. Trump's are higher.
Historically high.
Yes.
The two of them together.
Right. So it's really interesting. How do you deal with a candidate who is willing to be this bombastic and is going to get that much earned media? You know, you've seen sort of down ballot candidates have to deal with like true bomb throwers before, and their strategy mostly is ignore them. But you can't do that at the presidential level. Trump's gonna, you know, the press has to pay attention to Trump.
Right.
Because you can ignore some guy who's, you know, destined to lose a gubernatorial race or something like that. So.
Well, that's very interesting. That your statement, the press has to do that. Do we really? For example, last night when Trump, whatever that was, it wasn't a victory speech. It wasn't a news conference. It was just Trump talking. He went on for, I don't know, 45 minutes or more.
Yeah, and I think
we did not have to cover that, carry that end to end.
Yeah.
He's giving a speech today in Washington today on foreign policy. You know as well as I that all three of these cable networks are going to cover that speech from beginning to end. And he won't say a damn thing worthwhile, but we'll cover the entire speech because of Donald Trump. And we wouldn't do that for anybody else, not even for Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders.
I think that's definitely true.
Why? Then why do we do it?
Because, I mean, in the case of the cable networks and not being a television reporter, I can't, fully account for what they do. I mean, I think for them, it's ratings. I mean, I'm assuming the guy must generate better ratings than they normally see. I also think...
That's true, by the way. I can tell you as a television person.
Yes, and I'm guessing there's also, I don't know, I think even as a journalist, there's still, you can't look away from the car crash aspect of it. It's what's happening is just so incredible. How do you turn away? But those are really the only two explanations I have, because clearly no one has ever gotten that sort of focused attention from cable news before.
No. We saw him this morning on the phone. He appeared live on CNN.
Breaking news.
And MSNBC and Fox. No, he didn't. He called them up. And he got 15 minutes on each one. Right. And again, nobody else could have gotten that time. I'm telling you. Hey, Kevin, good work on this campaign. Thanks so much for coming in this morning.
Great to be on.
Right. We're not at the end of it yet. Almost at the end of the program, however. We'll be back and wrap it up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. My whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Actually, we didn't leave ourselves time for a parting shot today. We've kind of covered this primary results, I think, in the last 3 hours. And we've got the big Donald Trump speech today, plus Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton will be back on the road. So there'll be lots to talk about again tomorrow. And we'll continue the conversation here on the Bill Press Show. So go out and have a great Wednesday, folks. Recover from last night and come back and see us again tomorrow.
This
we'll be
is the
looking for
Bill
you.
Press Show.